So here's a thought I've had for a while, and I'm going to share it with you. Like, I've had this thought, and I've kept it to myself for so long, but now I just need to get it out there. Also, it just came up on my topics of things to talk about. Mostly just, it's Halloween's coming up, so I was like, all right, I'm doing these podcasts now, and it's, I've decided just one topic per podcast. So with Halloween coming up, I better burn through my Halloween stuff or else I can't do it again till next year. So I wanted to talk about ouija boards. I said it weird like that because it's spelled stupid. Fuck the French. Is that where it's from? It's got to be, because it's spelled O-U-I, which is the same as we. And I only know that because I saw a show recently where somebody was wearing a hat that said O-U-I, and I thought it said oi, like the Jewish term. Like, oy vey. So I had to look it up. I'm like, why is she wearing a hat that says oi? That seems weird. And then it turns out, no, it's we. Which would make sense now when you say ouija board. Even though when you look at it, you want to go, ouija? The fuck is that? But anyway, so I've been thinking about ouija boards for a while now. And I just... my biggest fascination with ouija boards are... the fact that it was ever made into a board game for children. Like this. Well, I'm pausing here because, so I've always thought it was a funny idea. Like, how the hell did that get made into a game for children? And why I was pausing right there is because I thought it would be a good stand-up joke. But whenever I have stand-up jokes, I have to stop, do a little Google search, because I'm like... So the way I do comedy, I'm going to be all over the place, I guess. There are a couple of styles of comedy, stand-up comedy, I feel. And one of them is just straight-up jokes. Like, they don't say anything about anything. They are just jokes. Rodney Dangerfield. Old-time comedy, that's all it was. Set up punchline. As many as you can do, the better. Which there's nothing wrong with that. One of my favorite people, whose name I won't be able to... Wendy Liebman. Okay, jeez. I think that's her name. She does jokes. She's one of my favorites. Like, she has this one joke. I don't want to ever have kids because I'm afraid I'd never let them out of my body. Right? So that's just a joke. And then there's comics who, the new style, starting around the 60s, was, hey, we can talk about stuff that is personal. And so it's kind of what's called a confessional style of comedy. And then there's a third style, which is what I do, which is, I guess people would call it observational. So when I get up there to do a set, you have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I don't segue from one thing to the other. I just, here's my joke about this. No, here's my joke about that. I personally like that better. I almost feel like the confessional style. So this is back to the ouija board. I have to look up, when I come up with something, I have to look it up to see, has anyone done this? Because sometimes I'm like, it feels like somebody else has thought this. Like somebody had to have thought this. And I get bummed out because a lot of times it turns out, yeah. So I looked up Ouija board, and somebody else has a joke about the fact that it was made for children, how blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a very good joke, but the fact that somebody did it, now it means like, can I do it still? And why it bums me out, because if I did confessional comedy, where I talked about myself and I hit all the topics everyone fucking hits, right? I'm going to talk about relationships. I'm going to talk about sex. I'm going to talk about how I look. I'm going to talk about my insecurities. I'm going to talk about my family, my parents, even just news topics, right? All of those fall into the category of, yeah, they've been said a million times by a million comics, but you get to do it because you put your own spin on it. And no one would ever call you a joke thief. But if I do the ouija board joke and somebody's like, there's a guy in England who does an ouija board joke, you're a thief. You're a joke thief. Even if my joke is nothing like their joke, just the fact that the two jokes have the same topic, now there's the danger. And so usually if it's even anybody's done it, even if they do a shitty job, I'm like, well, can't do that now. So I've actually had a joke of mine that I had to scrap because Ray Romano did it. 10 years after I did it. I've got proof. Now, he's not a joke thief. The joke was, I had a joke 10 years ago, which was, it's a good thing our bodies are symmetrical because every once in a while you'll find like a lump or something, like under your chin, and you're like, oh my God. Uh-oh. That can't be good. And then you're like, oh, no, wait, there's one over here too. Okay, so that must be there. It was a good joke. It always went well. And then I found out like 3 years ago, Ray Romano's new special has a joke about the same concept of our bodies being symmetrical. Jokes are not at all the same. I also did it first. But now, how could I ever do it? Because at some point, somebody's going to go, you stole that from Ray Romano. So I feel bad for my style of comedy because I run into that occasionally. Where if I could take the easier path where I just talked about myself, jokes would come easier, people would relate better, but it doesn't interest me personally because it feels like, well, I'm just doing what everyone else does. I like the observational stuff. It's a harder putt. Because your success rate is a lot less. Trust me. Trust me. It's a lot less. Because you realize halfway through your joke, like, oh, nobody cares about my joke about thistle seeds. I really thought I was onto something. And it turns out, no. So what was I talking about? Ouija board. So, well, fuck. Well, now I'm bummed out. I'm just going to call this podcast, I'm bummed out. But don't worry, I'm not going to commit suicide or anything. Well, because now I abandoned the long-form podcast to do these short ones because I was thinking like maybe it'd be nice if every podcast was single-topicked. But now what I've just done is the equivalent of doing a joke, and instead of... So, like, if somebody clicks on this, which will be titled Ouija boards or something, Ouija boards, they're going to be like, why am I at minute 9 and he hasn't even talked about Ouija boards? He should have titled this his thoughts about doing stand-up. Now that I think about it, maybe that's exactly what I should do. All right, what other thoughts do you have about stand-up, I guess? That's what this has just turned into. I'll do Ouija boards in a different segment. What else about stand-up? It's fun sometimes. Yeah, I don't know. My point, I guess, about it is sometimes I might be considered a joke thief if I don't do enough research. And then the quandary of, if somebody else did it, am I allowed to? Does it fall under the same category of, this guy's doing a joke about relationships and this one's doing a joke about relationships, but it's their own version of it, so it's fine. So is my own version of a joke that somebody else did, is that still allowed? If it's clearly not the same? Like usually where people get busted, like Carmen Mencia. Yeah, I said Carmen Mencia. I know his name is something else, but I won't say it out of respect for Bill Cosby of somebody whose joke he stole. I have more respect for Bill Cosby, well, no. I was going to say what's the word I'm looking for? Convicted sex predator, except for he was released. So technically I can't even say that because he could sue me. So the alleged sex offender, have more respect for Bill Cosby, the alleged sex offender, than Carmen Mencia or Mendoza. What's his name? Mencia. Well, his real name's something completely different. Anyway, so my point is, I don't even remember. Oh, right. Well, he did his joke verbatim, basically. And he's done a lot of jokes verbatim, like where, you could put up the footage of Bill Cosby's joke and then his joke, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's the same fucking joke, almost the exact same. So if I did an ouija board joke that was exactly like the one that I found, then of course I'd be stealing. But I don't need to steal. I can do podcasts every single day on a different topic, and someday I'm going to even have a thing where I'll take suggestions from the audience. Because I do improvise stand-up all the time. Mostly because I'm just bored. Like my brain, I'm like that genius in class who gets bored with the topic. Like, oh, geez, I can do this in my sleep. So sometimes I'll just say, like, get to throw out a topic. I'm just curious how it's going to go. And so maybe I'll do that. I'll take random topics. My point is, if I could do that every day, obviously I don't need to steal other people's jokes. This sounds like a podcast of me declaring I'm not a joke thief. This is fucking, I don't know what to title this anymore.